Welcome back to another episode that Evolving Vision. I'm Frank Carpino. Today we've got Dr. Ken Fong from Sage Eyecare,
Thanks for having me.
and we're hoping to just get some more information for the younger doctors and the older doctors on your experience, on what you've done in your life in this industry. So, if you just want to give us a little background of
So I'm a
yourself.
University of Waterloo grad from 1994, so 31 years in practice. For much of that, I was practicing next to a major optical retailer in malls. And in the last 2 years, we have since moved to Sage Eyecare here as a fully independent practice, and with all the benefits that come with that. So it's been a great journey. In the last 2 years, have been so life-changing after 29 years of practicing in the former way, and now that we're practicing independently, it just gives me all the freedom that I want at this stage in my life. Yeah,
So very different, right, from the high corporate level
very much
to
so.
where you are now. What
And
big adjustment.
Very much so. And even in the time that we were in that corporate setting, that's changed. How things used to be in that environment 25 years ago is very different than what it is today. So I think with evolving eye care, being in this environment for me at this stage in my life is definitely a much better position to be in.
Well, we were just talking about that. We met like 9 years ago.
Nine
9
times
years
come and
ago.
gone.
Yeah, how fast things, and it just shows how fast the industry is changing too.
And it has changed a lot.
Just like even like the things that we were preaching back then, and compared to like just the chat that we had here this morning, like it's as if we're talking about two different industries on how much changes have happened in eye care.
And some of those changes have been good, and some of those changes haven't been so good. Like one of the key things we were seeing is that there have been some new major optical chain retailers that have entered the Canadian market, and that's put a pressure point on professional fees. There are a lot of practices now that are charging in the order of $99 for a full comprehensive exam, which includes OCT. And that's a very different fee. There's a very different price point than what our professional worth is. And there has been this pressure to drop the prices, to be competitive in that kind of space. And being next to a major optical retailer meant that we had to be competitive. So since leaving that kind of environment and now being in an independent space, we're really able to spend the kind of quality time that we want with patients without having to do volume. Mm-hmm. And be able to charge a fair professional fee for our time and to cover the expenses, of course. So that was one of the key things about leaving that environment to coming into here to Sage.
So, what would you say that the quality of the exam from the corporate level to the private sector, like yourself, there's a difference in the quality of the exam?
I think it's going to be up to the practitioner. You can be a great practitioner in either environment, and you can be a mediocre practitioner in either environment. I think what we have here in an independent practice is that we have much more physical space to be able to house some of the new technology. In the old environment, we were very space limited, so we didn't have that opportunity to be able to have some of these newer instruments. And as well, practicing more dry eye treatment, for example. Being introduced RF and IPL, that was not something that was really supported in a corporate environment. Right? In the corporate environments, it's understood, maybe without being said, that they prefer you to see volume, the generic scripts, so that they can benefit from selling glasses to your patients. And in private practice, you can do it at your own pace. You can
Well, you
provide
set
that.
your own-
Yeah,
your own
you can
timetable.
provide the full scope, the full care what that patient needs, and the time constraint is bound by you, the practitioner.
Where in the corporate level, you kind of have to meet a certain guideline or certain
To some extent, right?
You have an expectation,
even if
right?
they don't explicitly say it.
Yeah, but they have an expectation.
There's some understanding
Yeah.
that that's the case.
Yeah, so-
And I think if you're doing things to treat patients that would take away from the corporate entity from getting a sale from spectacles, that's not to their benefit. So on a day-to-day basis, there were some times that you were feeling you weren't practicing maybe the best that you can, doing 100% for the patient that you'd like to. So in private practice, you can,
Well, you create your own environment, right?
very much so.
Yeah.
And because we had such a long history, we had 24 years of being in that kind of environment, and most of our patients have come with us to Sage Eyecare in private practice. They love the environment here. They comment all the time. We've been here nearly 2 years, and now, of course, we've been seeing patients a second time out of this new location, and patients still comment on how much they like the environment, how the environment makes them feel. The positivity of being in this setting has been such a plus. It's really added and enhanced the kind of eye care we've been able to provide. There before we didn't have the environment. They still really liked us as the practitioner, hence they've followed us to Sage Eyecare. But now we've given them the clinic facility to really match the kind of services that we were providing.
To me, when I think about these corporate eye care, they're just like a blanket. It's just an average. You go there, you get, for me, I would have to say you're getting an average assessment. You're getting an average consulting when it comes to what frame lines you should be looking at, which lenses you should be looking at. When there's so many details that you need to address to get the person to see the best they can. Mm-hmm. You need the environment, and you need like which you get in a private practice like this, where you get that motivation too. Over and above the fact that you're allowed to train your staff the way you want to train them, and not the way that the guidelines from corporate levels go, right? And
also in that corporate environment, you can sometimes end up attracting some associate doctors that may choose to practice at a level where it's simpler, right? The auto refraction is there, and the emphasis is getting the script out. So you've addressed the need for the glasses, and that's the end of that, and the associate can move on to the next patient. So we have found that, and in private practice, you really can't do that. In private practice, first of all, you're inspired to do much more, much better for the patient, and provide that full scope care of what they need from beginning to end. Whereas in a side-by-side setting, you are often made to feel, well, the script has been generated, and I've done a ocular health assessment, and next, let me see the next patient.
There's no personal touch.
Right.
Yeah,
That's right.
You need, in your industry, it really, personal touch is huge. Like it's, not only is it beneficial for sight, okay, because at the end of the day, everything that the eye care industry is just so that we could see the best that we can, right?
Yes.
And with the private sector, the personal attention that you give to the customer, in other words, how can I say, you dig deeper. You can dig deeper. So if there are potential issues, or there are certain requests that you probably wouldn't get on your average examination, on a corporate level, okay? People, I think, they have to be educated about this, obviously.
Yes,
that's why
right.
we're talking like this, to see if the people can start tuning in, and, because I'm not a doctor, and I'm trying to get as much word out as possible from what I've learned the past 15 years in this industry, right? And people that appreciate their sight have to take it a little bit more serious
Right.
Because everything is changing so fast, and I think that anyone that is going to hook up with a doctor of your expertise has basically hit the jackpot, right? Because they know that they're going to get the best service. Not to say that you go to the corporate levels, okay? That there you're getting a rough gem.
Yes.
Here you're getting the polished gem, and if you appreciate how you're seeing, and I keep referring to the $2,000 phone all the time, right? Because you can spend the money to buy a $3,000 phone, but if you can't see it, what's the use? Okay, so
one of the key things that we've learned through this process of moving here is we've seen the large difference in terms of how well some associate doctors have done versus others. Those associates who in the previous environment really took the time to connect personally with patients, to develop that rapport, to develop that patient loyalty, that trust.
The trust, yeah.
They've seen their retention rate be much, much higher. So, the vast majority of the patients followed that associate to this new environment. Didn't really matter where the location was. As long as they could see that practitioner, that's what the patient wanted.
Yeah.
We have also had some associates that never did that, right? Those would be associates that perhaps didn't really take that effort to make that personal connection. That really kind of finished the exam with the refraction, and it was maybe a 15-minute process, and then they were done. Well, they didn't see the same success here because they didn't build up that loyalty. They didn't build up that rapport. So that has to be done in any environment, right? Whether you're in a side-by-side or whether you're in private practice. Especially, I think, in private practice because you rely on the repeat patient. In a side-by-side, some aspect of the business, certain percentage of the business is because of convenience. You're in a mall. Somebody walks by. They see that there's a walk-in available. So they come and see you. So that's easy money, especially for an associate that's waiting to see more patients. But they may not be developing long-term relationships. And in the end, that's not good for them. And it's also not good for the patient. So that would be one thing that I would highly encourage anyone who's listening to this, who's in that kind of situation. Think about the kind of rapport that you've developed with your patient. How much time have you spent? How much time have you connected? That is so key. Yeah.
Because that'll have a ripple effect on also your income. Because
absolutely
big time. Now you've got a rapport with the customer.
Yes.
Now you have them in your basically they're inside your location, and you could offer all your different services, whether it's just the gallery, whether it's the follow up from the exam with the proper frame, the proper lens, the proper education on what they need, to walk out happy. And again, potential dry eye conditions. And, with the new industry now, with we call it the spa, right?
Yes.
The availability.
Yes.
Of, doing wrinkles and freckles, and because once you have their trust, you have that relationship. It's a win-win.
Absolutely.
A win-win.
And that's what I'm.
And I'm not referring strictly to money. Like, it's not just
I know.
This is a win-win for the
patient,
for the patient,
for the practitioner,
and for the practitioner. Yes,
very much so. And this is something that I hear every day, and that's something I feel every day coming into the practice here. So, and it's been really rewarding. I think one of the things that I've found most professionally rewarding was when we moved 2 years ago, how nearly all my patients said that it doesn't matter where you are. Wherever you move to, just let me know where, and I'll be there. And that's been, quite satisfying. Yeah.
And you established all these relationships during the big corporate.
Yes, so it can still be done, of course. It comes down to the practitioner. And we did do that environment, but we're doing it now in such a better environment. So we've definitely elevated what we can do for patients here. Yeah.
It took you a while.
It took a while. COVID slowed things down.
No, I mean, it took you a while.
It took us a while. Yeah,
You were in big corporate for a long time.
right?
Like mind you, you were in the upper end
20,
of big.
20 24 years. It did take a long time. There's a certain ease, there's a certain turnkey element to the previous environment, and we can get stuck in that sort of comfort zone of doing what we know how to do. We all do that, right? In all aspects of life.
Human nature.
Right? Human nature. It's rocking the boat. It's removing yourself out of a known environment. But in the end, it was worth it. It was a matter of doing it. We did get slowed down by COVID because we had thought of doing this just prior to COVID, and then we used COVID as an excuse with all the lockdowns and so on. But finally in I think it was around 2022, we said no, we're gonna go full steam ahead and proceeded. So no, we don't have to look back. The only thing would be we should have done it sooner, but better late than never.
You beat me to
better
the
late
punch
than
there,
never.
yeah.
And as often patients say, well, things happen for a reason in their own time. So yeah.
Well, you're waiting for your comfort zone, right? And you found your comfort zone.
Yeah. And now we're very comfortable here. So
Very.
yeah.
May, which is
My business partner.
your business partner, it's got the same feelings with
Oh,
in
yes.
regards to making the move and
Oh, very much so. I don't think either of us could ever go back to practicing
on
the way
corporate
we
level.
used to in that environment. It's just not possible now. Now, once you've sampled something that's better, like a fine wine, right? Once you've had that, you don't want to go back to $2 Chuck, right? So yes, yeah. And she loves practicing in this environment, and her patients love it, and they love her in that environment. So no, there's no looking back. There'd be no point. Yeah, you moved on. Things are so much better. The timing, it was what it was. So onwards and forwards. Yeah.
How many more years you think you got?
Don't have anything definite. I'm in my late 50s, but I've enjoyed practice more now than ever, which I didn't expect. I mean, I've always enjoyed practice, but since making the move, I've actually enjoyed practice more.
Don't you find them more rewarding?
Yes, and that was not something I expected. So what a pleasant surprise to have at this stage in my career, right? 30 years in, 31 years in, and you're actually still really looking forward and
still
enjoying coming to,
growing.
still growing, still enjoying coming to practice, and liking practice more than at any other time in my career. And that's a wonderful feeling to have. I mean, no one ever loves, human resources and dealing with office politics. I mean, that part is kind of necessary, and that exists in both environments. But the overall feeling of being here is so much more positive, right? The positive vibe, the positive energy that's here each and every day is a nice environment to step into. And thanks to you, you build out this wonderful space that we didn't necessarily always have the vision to see the end product. Wow, patients love it. They love the way that this office feels to them. And they comment. They comment all the time. They can't help it. They always just say it. And they say it a second time. So
It's that positive energy that's in the air. It's hard to people think that
it's a little
it sounds
intangible.
as
I mean, I could give you a list of things, elements of why this is positive, why this is good. It's the sum of all those things that somehow come together that conveys that feeling to patients, and they like to be here, right? They're looking forward to coming back, and that's a great feeling to give to a patient, right? So
and they have an open mind when they're in this environment.
yeah, right.
Because what I find is very, very hard to educate, to get people to understand why they should be. If it's simple, like why should they be doing a certain test? Why
Right.
You're gonna skip the OCT? Why am I giving you an OCT? Why do I need it? But when they have this atmosphere and this trust, it's so much easier to educate, have an open
Oh, very much
mind.
so.
And if you say no, I think you should be, we're doing a follow up on this, and they listen.
Oh, yes.
So
I mean, patient compliance is 98, 99% here. Very few patients don't take a recommendation, on a necessary test. They all do. Yeah. Because the environment is like that. And again, the rapport, right? The trust in the practitioner conveys all of that. So, yeah, very much so.
we were talking about locations and the fact that you didn't want to rent, you
Right.
wanted to purchase.
Yes.
Can we chat a few minutes on what you've learned, or what the before and after of that
Right.
that process, that thought of, should I rent or should I buy?
I would recommend to any practitioner, if possible, to own their own space. It gives them so much more flexibility, right? So, these days you could easily pay, I think, $5,000-$7,000 a month in rent. That wouldn't be out of the ordinary,
easy.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you're easily in that, 60,000, 70,000 a year.
Yes.
Yeah, right? So you sign a 10-year lease. That's $700,000 in 10 years. And effectively, you have nothing to show for after paying $700,000 in rent after 10 years. As a practitioner that can own their own space, you have equity in real estate. You're playing a long game, so you should hope that in 10 years' time, 20 years' time, your value's gone up in terms of that holding, that real estate. So that's an investment in itself.
Yeah.
And then secondly,
Different entity now.
Yeah,
It's a totally
right.
different entity
Yes.
from
Yes.
from the eye care industry.
right. And then secondly, as an exit strategy, owning your own space gives you a lot of flexibility to be able to sell a practice in the future for a new owner, because you can sell it on your own timeline. If you have a lease, if you have a 10-year lease, you often have to coordinate the things to go with that 10-year lease.
Right.
You have a pressure to sell your practice in a certain time frame, because you probably want some time left in the lease for the new owner. The new owner of the practice may have to then negotiate with the landlord. They have to get a new lease. If you don't sell your practice when your lease is up, then you have to make a really difficult decision. Are you going to sign yourself for another 5-year lease or another 10-year lease? Then you're obligated to that. So there's that kind of pressure. But when you own your own space, and at some point you're going to retire and sell the practice to a new owner, well, when the right buyer comes with the right price, the timing is what's suitable for both parties. So I think that is probably the number one benefit to owning your own space, aside from the investment and not the expense of it. Of course, ownership always comes with some responsibility, but it's worth it in the end. So if at all possible, own your own space.
It's worked well for you.
It's worked out so far, so I can't, no complaints. Yeah.
Well, the locations you bought were
The
really good.
The locations have really worked out for us. They were in proximity to our old office locations, so it made for the transitioning a lot easier. Patient access has been good, and good parking, right? Good parking is key to any new location. That is number one. Yeah, for patient.
Yep.
Patient ease, patient convenience. You want to have good parking.
We're going to talk about your vault, which is in our background here,
Yes.
which was designed by Joseph Carpino, my son.
Yes,
And to this day, it's still a work of art.
it is.
And we started with this vault concept, this high-end area,
Right.
probably about maybe 4 years ago, something like that, 4.5 years ago.
It evolved out of the space. We had to make some changes to the pretest area. We, in fact, needed a bigger pretest area than we originally planned. And in the process of relocating that within the new design, we ended up with this space that, what are we going to do with it? It's almost like a nook. What can we do with it? And you actually had brought up that in other projects you had the concept of a vault.
Well, we introduced it about 4 years ago.
Yes.
This whole concept of let's give the people an option of an upper end. Whoever wants that
And then when you came
white
up
glove
with
service.
when you came up with that concept, I think I then took it to that next level and said, build me a bank vault. If we're gonna call it a vault, let's make it a bank vault. And then I had that vision of sort of that traditional rounded bank vault door. And of course, Joseph has created something like a work of art. I mean, it's really quite beautiful. And the safety deposit boxes, I believe, was also his idea. And again, I mean, what goes with the bank vault? Well, safety deposit boxes, and now you can highlight individual pieces in each safety deposit box to showcase the uniqueness, the beauty of each piece. So that's very much worked out, and it's really elevated the whole practice, right? Even for those patients who may not feel that they're going to be in that high end range of product. The fact that we have something within the practice means that then they're more open and more receptive to even looking at other things outside of the vault.
Right.
It elevates our other products in the other parts of our optical gallery. So there's an indirect benefit to having something that's highlighting, showcasing beautiful product, even if it's not in that patient's price range.
It raises interest.
Raises the interest? Yeah, very much so.
Has it been successful?
It's been successful, sometimes a little too successful in the sense that it conveys such a high-end feeling. Some patients get a little intimidated to going in. So you have to encourage them. You have to have the staff to
Yes.
invite them and show them. So you do have to work with that. So it depends, I think, on the practice demographics, on the clientele. Whether if you're in a very, very, very high-end overall neighborhood, high-end practice, maybe more receptive. If you're in the medium level, then you have to invite people in. You do have to work at it. Yeah.
But it does also give you a location or an area where you can, remember we talked about education, right?
Yes.
To solidify that trust, where you can talk to the patient / customer
Yes.
about what they're actually looking at and
Right.
and the detail. Why are these frames $1,000?
Right. Yes.
Where when you're out in the open, it doesn't have the same impact.
That's right.
As when you're inside that area, and their ears open up a little bit more.
Exactly.
Right?
So in our main optical gallery, we have 3 dispensing stations, whereas inside the vault we have 1 dedicated dispensing station, and because of the vault doors, you can close them. They're glass, so people can still see themselves with the whole space, but yet complete privacy and having a total private conversation behind closed doors. So that aspect has really worked out, very much so.
And no, we cannot lock them in, right?
Yeah.
But no, we're at iEvolve. We're very, very proud that you gave us the opportunity to.
So you got to build out a few of these vaults again.
They're very, very, very difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine.
They're very difficult, especially we can't offer this concept to be shipped out. There was a lot of hand detail on this.
Right.
But
it's a passion project. So both from both the designer, the builder point of view, as well as the practitioner, the passion from both parties have to be there to create that, right? So you have to have the right practitioner, the right client of yours to want something like that, to go through the trouble and the expense of doing it, but then it's worth it. They have to be behind it. It's an investment in its own right. So yeah,
we're going to shoot it after, but we actually even have the Bellagio floor in there. So your logo, it's even on the floor of the vault.
Yeah, that's
right?
really quite something. I think you had them laser cut into the floor tile, and they're inlays in that one central tile. It's quite something.
This is where we get at. So now we're get a little bit less loosen up a little bit
Yeah.
here. How do you do this on a corporate level? Come on.
Well, of course, it's not possible.
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
Even though the money's there, because they obviously very deep pockets, But to customize your branding, to say that this is my look, this is what I want to offer to my patient/customer.
Well, corporate settings really discourage that. They, in fact, don't want you to be that individual, right? They want you to be. They want their corporate brand to be what comes through, right?
Yep.
You're really a little bit kind of invisible in a sense. You convey yourself as a practitioner, as an individual with your patient. That a good practitioner
As the doc,
should
as
do.
the doctor.
A good practitioner should do that. But in terms of that space, some of those design elements that you're talking about, corporate entities don't want that. They'd rather that the patient/customer knows the brand, the corporate brand, and that's the identity.
But that works for them.
That
right?
works for them because the loyalty's to them, to the corporate brand, not necessarily to the practitioner. So the practitioner, to them, can be replaceable, right? So it's to their advantage to do that.
But this is what I feel that going into the private sector, like what you have here, where it opens the door for you, where you can have the customer/patient, have that experience, that non-cookie cutter experience,
Right.
Because when you're in a mall, and again we won't name names, but you walk in, you're going to expect a certain treatment. You're not going to get this, right? So again, it boils down to how much do you value how well you want to see.
Well, I guess there's a place for McDonald's. You walk into any McDonald's, you want that reliable same thing, right? You want that same French fry, no matter which McDonald's you works into. I suppose that's why you go there. You won't get anything individual, anything special, right? A chef is gonna make their frite their way, and you have to go there.
And they always taste, doesn't matter where you go, it always tastes exactly the same.
But
there's
if
no
you
difference.
if you want that individual best dish, well, you have to go to that particular chef's bistro for that, and that's where individualism really can be exerted in a private practice like this. And there's nothing cookie cutter about this space, about what you've built for us here, Frank. I mean, it's really one of a kind. You're not going to get this feeling anywhere else. And I think even if we did another office with you, it will have its own individualism, its own brand, its own feeling, and that's what makes it special. This is not cookie cutter. Yeah.
Well, we try and create the branding based on some doctors where they got 4 or 5 offices,
Right.
and they want to have that small corporate look,
Sure.
meaning that they've got their brand, their
Right.
branding,
Yes. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But you still have to adjust it based on the area, based on
right.
the demographics,
Sure.
Based on even who you have there staffing the office, the frame lines that you're going to carry,
Right.
the potentials of what you're going to be doing in the industry if you're going to be expanding. Is this just strictly refraction, or are you going to be doing any specialty? With either contact lenses or dry eye or therapy. So there's every spot, every doc. Again, I keep saying doc all the time. Every doctor. Okay, so every doctor has their shape that has to be addressed, right? To get the optimal results in your comfort, in your revenue, and just your quality of life. The fact that you're going to work every day, whether it's 5 days a week, 4 days a week, 6 days a week.
Right.
But we're really proud at iEvolve that we can offer this, and we can sit down and come up with a plan that suits your budget, it suits your area, your thoughts, your expectations. And I think the one thing that I'm most proud of, because it's a full-out family business, with my wife and both, we call them children, 32 and 35, 33 and 35. They're always kids. We take a lot of pride in following up with every little detail
Yeah.
and every little expectation. And even when everything is said and done, there's always a tweaking. There's always something that we have to come and address. Or,
And you have absolutely lived by that motto, Frank. I mean, you said earlier that it's been 9 years since we first met, 2 years since we've opened here. And yet I can call you up at any given moment and, you're there to help us. So I cannot think of another professional relationship that's like this, that can even go beyond professional relationship, really like I remember one thing you said to me was that, you treat this practice as if it were your own. You really have treated us like family because you provided the kind of advice and recommendation and the attention to detail that family would do. And that's what's happened here. And without that, we couldn't have elevated Sage Eyecare to what it is today. So I cannot imagine that this could exist, and even a fraction of what it is, without the collaboration that we've had over these years. So yeah,
just like your doctor-patient relationship, right? The bond, and the feel and the trust that you get,
right?
The reward, you can't put it in words what the reward is.
So in a sense, right?
Feel.
You're the practitioner of the design of the office, and I'm the patient, right? So I mean, there's a parallel to that, right? So it's the trust, right? It's the rapport, and that's why you go back to that person. So it's the same thing. I see that as a total analogy. Yeah. So you have to think of yourself as the clinic doc, the design doc, because that's what it is.
Thank you for that. So now my podcast is not only a non-doc. So now
Right.
the podcasts aren't supposed to be in regards. And I'm supposed to look at the cameras, but this is so informal. This is not to hype up on I Evolve Design, and that if you don't use us, that you're in the shits. That's not what I'm getting at here. What I'm getting at here is you have to keep an open mind. You have to have a relationship with who you're working for. You got to talk. You have to educate yourself, even just by listening to what we're talking about, so that then you've got a game plan. If you're working with someone and developing a project with someone, you'll have some of the right questions to ask, right? Say, oh, but I heard that if we do this, the more information you can get, the more questions you can ask. There's that saying, "There's no stupid questions."
Yeah. Well, there were times that with I Evolve that you're so cutting edge and you're so keep up with the newest concepts that me and I didn't keep up. There were times, because we tend to be a little bit more conservative by nature, that we can't keep up with some of your new ideas. So pros and cons to that. So it's great to have what's new, and sometimes we just have to get caught up with you, because we're still thinking it was from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, those concepts from then. So a mix of those things. So that's the right balance, I think.
No, it's hard for us.
Right.
I can only imagine for the doctors and the staff, even for us, because things are changing
quickly.
so
Eye
quickly.
care changed quickly, right? Optometry's changed very quickly. The retail environment has changed very quickly. Like at one of our other locations that we left, all of the traditional department anchor stores have closed. So there was a Bay, a Saks Fifth Avenue, and they're all bankrupt. They're all closing. So malls have completely changed. So think about that environment. That retail environment has all changed. Mm-hmm. So good environment to have been back in the 90s when malls were the prime kind of retail, but not today. So yet another reason why it was a positive move to leave that environment. So it can be sometimes hard to keep up, but the idea is that you have to try. I don't think we can just sit on what we've always done. Hence, we finally made the move.
I'm happy to see that you're very happy.
Yes,
it's
right?
very rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah. What a great thing to have, right? This stage, right? Three decades in, and to have this kind of environment to come into on a day in, day out basis. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
So, how are we for time?
We're good. We're 47 minutes in, if believe it or not.
Okay. I think that was my closing statement. You know, if you wanna, if you anything that you want to reach out, whether it's to doctors that have been
Yeah.
practicing for 30 years or new grads, you know, your feel, your feel. What I want to get from you is your feel for this profession,
Right.
on what it's done for you, the rewards. What do you feel?
Well, it's given me obviously a lot of opportunity and the comforts that I have in my life. So, I've given back in terms of, I think, patient care, the kind of rapport that I have developed over 30 years of practice, and but we have to keep up with the times.
Yes.
You can't sit on your laurels from what you did a decade ago, 2 decades ago. That was then, and this is now. So you do have to stay current and provide a modern facility like this. And if you do, I think you're going to be able to continue to be successful. And to your earlier point about AI, I think the information may be there, but you need that personal touch, that personal care, that personal rapport, because there's a lot of things you can read out there, right? I mean, information is wide open and everybody has access to all this information, but it also means there's disinformation. At the end of it, people are going to trust that individual that they have learned to rely on for a long time, as you would a great friend, a family member, you would with a practitioner. So I don't think AI can replace that. AI may supplement and may be part of it in the future, but I don't think it will completely replace that human touch. Certainly not with respect to healthcare and to eye care.
It's a nice thing to have for quick information,
Right.
follow-ups, stuff like this.
Yeah.
But as you said, it'll never, ever, ever replace the human touch.
Yeah. So thank you again, Frank, for giving me the opportunity to talk about this. We've kind of touched about these kind of things here and there over the years, right? But to kind of have this kind of sit down and kind of, in fact, sort of sum up a lot of what we've kind of gone through over the last 9 years of working together, it's actually quite nice. It's quite nice, very nice to been able to do that and to sit and look at and enjoy this space. So yeah, thanks again for making it a reality.
We get to share it.
Indeed.
We get to share the feeling.
Good. Thank you.
Well, that's
All right.
it. That's it for us for this podcast at Evolve. What do you call it again? Evolving vision. Evolving vision. Yeah.